right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another live stream. And originally, I thought we would just joke around and be ridiculous, but so much crazy stuff has already been popping off today that it doesn't really seem like it's going to be possible to be completely ridiculous. I'm not exactly sure what triggered the market madness, but we had a couple days of a downturned market, and I don't really care about markets except that unfortunately we are still in the era when Bitcoin is tied to the macro environment, and that means that whatever's going on in the big picture, the big scale, still affects crypto, particularly Bitcoin, obviously, as the king. Now, Warren Buffett apparently dumped gigantic amounts of Apple, and everybody thinks that he did this because he knows something. There must be an inside knowledge. I don't know, but it would definitely be a good time to be ready for things to get crazy. And I still believe that gold is not the ultimate answer. If people want to have gold, they can. I think gold will always have value, but I still think Bitcoin will always be superior. It is the infinitely better form of gold. But what does this mean? What does one of the richest, as far as we know, richest men doing this signify? Well, let's look over here at what our buddy Cameron McGregor, who actually studies economic stuff to an nth degree way more intently than I do. He's made some pretty good calls over the last couple of years that I've known Cameron. So let's see what he's saying about what's going on. We'll be watching several clips today about all kinds of stuff. Maybe we'll get to the goofy, spooky videos. I don't know, but I forgot that we're getting close to Halloween and all the stores are already rolling out spooky stuff, right? So get ready for Spirit Halloweens to be everywhere. And when I see Spirit Halloweens are basically becoming like a denomination. They're like a church now. When I see a Spirit Halloween, they're popping up everywhere. It's like, I mean, how long until the Protestant evangelical churches merge with Spirit Halloween and we get like a partnership, a new denomination partnership? You got preachers going to be dressing up like, I don't know, like a sexy nurse or something. Who knows? I mean, they're already at that point pretty much. There's really no difference between an evangelical church and a Spirit Halloween. It's pretty much the same circus, baby. Camera's got that adult music. That's that serious, like academic city adult music. You know what I mean? What the heck happened? Good time to get serious. I like that he's got Bitcoin there. That's that serious. By the way, things are getting so crazy. Everybody's going to be mad when I say this. But, yeah, exactly. All you got to do is load up on Bitcoin. Everybody's bitching. I'm like, oh, dude, everybody was bitching saying, oh, I wish I'd have bought Bitcoin when it was in the 50s. And then it goes back to the 50s, and everybody's like, oh, it's crashing, going to zero. I don't want none of it. Dump it. Now's when you buy it, dummy. I'm not a registered financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do. I remember what I was going to say. I'm starting to think things are just getting too crazy, and we're going to have to just like, everybody's going to get mad when I say this. I'm starting to think maybe Galt's Gulch is the right idea. I don't know. I mean, I know everybody hates Ayn Rand, and I've criticized Ayn Rand infinite times. She's a goofus, but I mean, she's hot as hell, but she's a goofus. But I'm starting to think, well, maybe they actually... Somebody said a long time ago, and I think this is right. Hell, maybe it was even my idea. Maybe I talked about this on... It might have been on an old afternoon commute, but it also might have been on the oldest Higher Side Chats interview with Greg Carlwood. I might have talked about how... What if that's actually the plan? Like, certain people will be able to access some place, and then they'll just let everything go to shite. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised, because I mean, you know, a lot of these elite people, they have inside knowledge. Obviously, they're not gonna be out here in London with all of these, you know, grape gangs running around going wild. So where are they going to be at? They're going to Gulch, wherever that is. Remember Jesse Ventura, that episode of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura? Remember that episode on True TV where the billionaire was building that big old compound in the Ozarks? Remember that? I'm not saying that dude is John Galt. I'm just saying. I don't know. What are we going to do? Well, let's figure out what's going on economically. I mean, dude, this is just... Everything's going crazy. Did you see that Alex's Lord Voldemort report today? I can't play it on here because of YouTube, but I can, like, talk about it. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's see if we can figure out some of the economic jibber jabber. And you know what? I mean, economics is just this giant smoke and mirrors, empty. It's just a giant hall of mirrors, dude. There's like basically nothing there except scams within scams, like the giant trading guild guy in Dune. I see scams within scams, right, with the vagina mouth. So it's just scams within scams. It's bubbles within bubbles. So, I mean, who could even ever figure any of that shit out? It's all just a bunch of scammery. So, I want to address the stupid thing that Bitcoin is the CIA. That's so... I don't understand why would Tucker say this after having had Max Kaiser and Michael Saylor on. So we'll address that in a moment, which I think was stupid. But the real economy is a big Ponzi scheme. And it has to crumble sometime. And so Cameron, again, he spends all of he's Colonel McGregor's son. He spends all of his time studying the economic stuff and more. I'm not trying to say he only studies economics, but, you know, he knows that very well. And he's really been paying attention to all the banks that are collapsing. And his thesis is that they're not actually talking about what all's collapsing. So that makes me wonder, maybe that's what Warren Buffett knew about. But we'll see.
Welcome back to Men and the City. In today's video, we're going to talk about the economy. So today's video is going to be called What's Wrong with the Economy, Part 3. Banks and governments do not control market forces. Now, I started this series last year because the economy, for Americans especially.
Now, one thing I want to say here is that of all the modern economic schools, none of them have it perfect. Probably the Austrians are the best, right? I mean, I'm not super duper into libertarianism. We know, you guys know, critique libertarianism many, many times. But I mean, compared to the other ones, yeah. Thank you. I mean, compared to the other options, I mean, Keynesianism is the worst. It's just Fabianism. We're going to be talking about the Fabians here in a minute. And, I mean, if you think about it, this idea that you can have this centrally planned economy for this gigantic country, and beyond even this gigantic country, the entire Western world, and that you have this guy, Jerome Powell, and he walks in there every few months, and he looks at a bunch of charts and stats and shit, and he knows best when to raise or lower interest rates. Dude, there's no way there's any rational, coherent meaningful sense to any of that bullshit. And I don't care how many New York Times goober-faced soy men, like, who's that dude that's always wrong? The official New York Times economist. Just like, he's like the soy man of the last generation. I forget his name, but famous for always being wrong, like more wrong than that Jim Cramer dude. Nobel Prize winning economist who gets everything wrong and has no money. Why would you listen to a broke ass New York dude, like a professor, wearing a sport coat with, you know, freaking a corduroy sport coat with freaking pads on the show? You know what I'm talking about. Shit that Woody Allen wore in the 1970s. That's what professors wear. And that's what what's-his-face wears. What's that dude? Paul Krugman. Yeah, wearing a damn Woody Allen sport coat. Remember him? Paul Krugman. I bet you he does have it on. Let's see. Or he's wearing some kind of a... Let's see what... Just look at that guy's face. Ugh. Anytime you see a guy like that with little round circle glasses... And a tiny mouth with gray everywhere, gray beard everywhere, you just know that he doesn't know anything. Just do the opposite of what he says. Right? Oh, he's edgy because Donald Trump's a devil. Look at that. Oh, he's edgy. Donald Trump's a demon. Whoa, edgy. Anyway, I was looking for a sport coat because you know he's got a sport coat of. I wonder what he says about Bitcoin. Anyway, we're not here to talk about this goofus. How do we get on ugly sport coats? The kind of sport coat that every professor, an English professor in every movie wears, especially if it's the 90s. Let's see, English professor. Y'all know what I'm talking about? It's got the leather circles on your... For what? Like, why would anybody's elbows wear down to the point that you need leather circles? Like, what are you doing? Are you crawling everywhere? Why the hell? You're a professor. Stand on your feet, man. You don't have to crawl around on all fours. English professor, corduroy. I don't know how to spell hell. I don't know how the hell you spell a damn corduroy. Corduroy. I sound like BLA now. Corduroy. They'll know what I'm talking about. Jacket, yes. English professor, corduroy jacket. But no, it's got to have the pads. Elbow pads. That's the body part I can't think of. Elbow patch. Yeah, here we go. These are too fancy looking though. It's got to be some old crusty ass professor coat. Here we go. This kind of shit right here. Any man wearing that, do not listen to him. Okay? He doesn't know anything. But he will make you think he knows everything. That shit right there, get out of here with that. You're going to try to tell me to be an atheist and to believe in Keynesianism. And by the way, Milton Keynes was gay, by the way. Keynesian economics. Anyway, let's get back to this.
For the world right now is very topical. And in fact, I have started a new Substack that I'll link to below called the End of Cycle Feed, which addresses where I think we are. We're at the end of a cycle, the end of a monetary cycle, the end of a currency cycle, the end of a business cycle, all sort of converging together. And I suspect that many of you sense the same. It could be because you're jobless. It could be because you're underemployed. It could be because you're working a job where there's no real future. It could also be that you see bizarre things in your day-to-day. You see people...
I think you're right. That coat does have a Dillahunty vibe to it, doesn't it? It's like, do I want to be 1970s Jewish man in New York? Like Woody Allen, do you like my coat? Do you like the coat? Oh my goodness, the coat has the patches cause I'm crawling on my all fours all the time. Oi. Or do I want to be Matt Dillahunty running away from, fleeing in fear from Andrew? What do you want? What do you want? I don't know. I think the only person that could get it, if you're C.S. Lewis or you're Tolkien, okay, you get the pass. Okay, if you're not at Oxford, you don't get to wear that coat. That's just it. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying over here. Anyway,
that are driving around with fancy cars. And
no, that's a great point in the chat. Intellectuals, I want to do a stream about IQ and all that, like high IQ and gifted kids and nerds. High IQ people, intelligent people are not very good in the world. You know, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the thing with the thing.
Purportedly have lots of money, but they have bad credit, or maybe they work a job that isn't consistent with their lifestyle. This is very common in the United States right now. There's a lot of illusory wealth, and what underpins that wealth are some very dangerous assumptions that are very common at the end of cycles.
So the assumption being that the dollar's fine, it's strong, all the stuff that the Biden jibber jabberers are saying, which is totally not true, because you can't ever. They realized in the 1980s that you can't ever pay back the debt, and it led to a huge crisis in the 1980s. And by the way, I was thinking, okay, yeah, I guess it's good that Trump's talking about Bitcoin on a national level. But the more I thought about it, and somebody said this in the comment, I forget who it was, somewhere on Twitter, and they were like, why don't they just cancel the debt? Exactly. It's fraudulent. The whole thing is fraudulent. And we're over here thinking about, oh, how are we going to pay back the $77 zillion that is owed to the private central banks? Oh, let's take all of the U.S. wealth and transfer it into Bitcoin, and then we'll pay it off. How about cancel it because it's fraudulent and scammy to begin with? Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute. What? I mean, that's like saying, oh, I got to pay off the con man. Well, he is the official con man. I mean, we got to pay him. I mean, he has a suit and a tall skyscraper, so you can't have a suit and a tall skyscraper unless you're legit, right? Even if you're like ultimate con man, yeah, but you're like the ultimate official con man, so you still have to get paid back. Yeah, I like this idea of just cancel the debt. Forget taking the U.S. What do you call it? I will create a U.S. stockpile of Bitcoin. 230,000 Bitcoin. What? Just cancel the debt, dude. Don't give them the Bitcoin.
So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. There's a very famous quote from the former Treasury.
A strategic stockpile. Called it a strategic stockpile of Bitcoin. A reserve, I guess that's what he meant.
Treasury Secretary under Herbert Hoover. So Herbert Hoover was president during the Great Depression. And that event destroyed his presidency, and it destroyed the Republican Party. In a sense, it was the end of a Republican governance cycle in the United States, one that had started in the 1860s. So it's a very big deal.
By the way, I don't know if Cameron knows this. I was just telling Cameron the other day, we were chatting, and I was like, you need to get into Tragedy and Hope. I think he would really benefit from that. I mean, he's familiar with what it is. I don't think he's read it yet. So I'd send him my lectures. I don't know if he's had a chance to listen to it yet. But these cycles are manipulated. I don't know if they're totally controlled, but I think that we talked about this. The boom-bust cycle is a scam. The boom-bust cycle is manipulated, and Quigley talks about that. So just a reminder that the boom-bust cycle is another one of these market cycles that is manipulated.
But Treasury Secretary Andrew Mellon, according to Hoover, gave him the following advice when asked about what they should do to deal with the Depression. And he said, and I quote, liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate the farmers, liquidate real estate. Now, what exactly did he mean by that? Well, the standard narrative for the Hoover administration is that it was a libertarian government of sorts that did not intervene in the economy.
How is he wearing a coat and everybody acting like it's cold? Is he in... Maybe he's in France or somewhere. I mean, It's hot as hell. Maybe he filmed this a long time ago. It says 10 days ago. That doesn't make any sense. So people are talking about a gold standard. There's some problems with a gold standard. I mean, a gold standard, I guess, would be better than what we have. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. We don't even know if there's gold in Fort Knox anymore. It could be freaking emptied out by Goldfinger himself. Remember James Bond? Remember Goldfinger? Goldfinger! He's the man with the Midas touch. Goldfinger! What was Goldfinger's plan? To get up in Fort Knox, man. I'm going to uproot that tree. I'm going to get in Fort Knox. I want the gold. Give me the gold. I want to know where the gold at. Well, the gold probably ain't in Fort Knox no more. I feel like Auric Goldfinger probably already got his fingers on it. Y'all feel me? Does anybody even know what I'm talking about? Anybody seen James Bond? Y'all ever heard of James Bond? So we don't even, how do we know that there's gold there? We don't know. We would just have to be trusting the Federal Reserve. Look, the whole Federal Reserve crap's got to go away. That's the problem. And all of Wall Street is built on that whole system of Federal Reserve and all that. And it can't last for forever. You can't make debt for forever. And I think people are starting to figure that out because of the last 4 years post-coup. In 2020 alone, remember 2020? When Creepy Joe basically printed so much that in 1 year, the dollar lost 10% of its purchasing power. That's crazy. In 1 year. So, remember eggs? Those little round things with the goo inside? Y'all ever heard of them? Remember those guys? Those were $3 or $4 before 2020. If you go get eggs now, they're $11. What? You see what I'm saying? You feel me? Y'all feel me out there? Y'all feel me? By the way, thank you for that super chat. Want to support the stream? Do so via the super chat function. It is pinned in the chat. We got a couple super chats. I'll read those in a second. Let's get back to Cameron's videos.
Now, that's not really the case.
By the way, I'm talking about this because we're going to, again, survey the scenarios of what's happening. We're going to look at the events in the UK going on right now. We're going to talk about Birdemic. If y'all catch my drift and my code speak, Birdemic, y'all know what I'm talking about. And I'm not just talking about one of the worst movies ever made. That's one of the best riff tracks, Birdemic. It's a code for something.
Actually did interfere quite a bit in the private economy and set the stage for the New Deal and many of FDR's interventions that succeeded him. But that's not...
No, to the person who... certain things go up more than 10%. Okay, so the person that says, that's not 10%. Thank you, Gabby. I'm aware that $3 to $12 is a 4x. I understand that's not 10%. The dollar itself, its purchasing power, 10%. I'm sorry you don't know basic math, Gabby. Maybe you need to learn some mathematics and a quick gabbing, Gabby. Ooh, spurnt.
Not really the point of this video.
Boom roasted.
A new economic paradigm evolved in the aftermath of the Depression, and that paradigm, more or less, was Keynesianism. Now, economics itself is...
And what is Keynesianism? It is Fabian, socialist, capitalist combined, right? It's this. People are like, you're not talking about who's really running stuff. Yeah, I am. I know what I'm talking about. I've studied this for a long time.
Very complicated subject with many different ideas or paradigms or paradigmatic thinking within it. However, what began in the aftermath of the Depression was a new belief. A new belief that central banks and governments could more or less mollify, if not...
This is the logic of, so the 1920s, 30s, right? You get the boom, you get the girls and the flappers, right? Because of so much wealth and partying and mobsters with Tommy guns and speakeasies, right? Well, all of that comes crashing down because of the boom bust cycle and the depression. And I do think the depression was in part planned and engineered by the banking elite. In fact, many books cover that. And the logic after the depression was, look at all of this rampant speculation. Look at all of this privatized, stock. People just, they crashed the market because they speculated too much. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring in this giant centralized control system, which was already in the works with the 1913 Federal Reserve Act and all that. More and more centralization. And this is the logic of Milton Keynes and in his Skittles economics, right? Dude, just think about it. Everything's fake and gray. Okay? Like rap music is all fake. It's all fake and gray, son. The economics is fake and gray too, baby. It's all fake and gray. Even the people giving you the stuff is fake and gray. And by the way, Milton Keynes was hanging out with a bunch of those Cambridge apostles who were all part of the Cambridge spy ring, who weren't just 4 or 5 of the Tinker Tailor Soldier spy guys. It's like 20 or 30 of them that are all compromised. And they're all a bunch of, you know what I'm saying, Skittles. And it's not just Skittles. The only true rapper is right here. Y'all, people are trying to talk about, well, there's a couple real rappers. Yeah, right here. Your boy right here. Young Boomer. That's one of the few. Okay. But anyway. Long story short, Keynesianism and all this shit, it's all fake and graded. That's all I got to say. I don't have to go through a damn history lecture for y'all.
Control the business cycle. So the series of boom.
Oh, this is what I was talking about. You know, he's talking about the boom bust cycle, which I've always talked about as a scam. The idea is that, the central goobers can look at all the data and then they can figure out how to steer the economy with interest rates and scammery and buying bonds and all this stuff and government debt. No, they don't know what they're doing. I mean, in one sense, they know what they're doing because it's a big scam. But just on the basic pragmatic level, remember Ron Paul was saying this like years ago. Well, the Federal Reserve, the logic is, they can't control everything. Central planning doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, just on a basic, how are you can't control and plan all of this for all of these factors of all these markets. It's insane. You can't even keep up with the data. I mean, just if you buy stocks, I'm not a huge stock person, but I bought here and there and played with it a little bit. I mean, Bitcoin, I'm into that. I understand that. I understand crypto world. Stock is boring and boomer and like, it took me 5 years. I got 10%. Whoa, right? And what's even slower than that? Gold. Anyway. Go watch Michael Saylor's lecture on stocks and how stupid it is. But what was I talking about? Boom bust. There's no way that around a smoky table of 5 or 10 men in suits and ties and cigars and Bernanke and all those, like they can't do this. It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. So with the maximum size of the economy and all of these factors, and thinking that 5 or 6 boomers can sit around a table and figure out through looking at a bunch of charts and pie charts and stats the best way to steer the economy and to control inflation, there's no way that's going to work. It's ridiculous.
Lost that happens inevitably over the course of the creative destruction that is the free market. And this belief has become institutionalized, not simply in U.S. government institutions, but importantly in the economy. There's a saying on Wall Street that I think all of you are familiar with: don't fight the Fed. Don't fight the Fed effectively means that whatever the central bank of the United States does, the U.S. Federal Reserve, ultimately the marketplace responds to that. And you'll hear this regurgitated by average people that invest in real estate in Florida, for example. They'll say things like, you don't fight the Fed, and no matter what happens, the Fed can print money. All right, we don't have a debt problem because the government ultimately can print money. Or sometimes you'll hear it put this way: the government will forestall a depression. It will forestall a collapse of the pension system. It will forestall a collapse of the banking system. Whatever happens, the government will intervene and it will prevent the disastrous outcome from happening. And of course, what motivated this is the antithesis of what...
Now keep in mind, this is a point that the Austrian economist thinkers have correct. And that's just simply this idea that the government is not competent enough to actually run all this stuff. Now, they can do things in a way that's competent. They can build a rocket that flies down your chimney and can attack you from space. I'm not talking about space being fake. I'm talking about like intercontinental ballistic missiles. Okay, they can build that stuff to destroy you, and they can build the internet and this kind of stuff. Sure. But it doesn't follow that because they recruit a bunch of tech dorks to build these things, that they therefore also understand and know how to manage a massive global economy. They just know. What they are good at, though, is scams and tricks and Ponzi schemes. And that element libertarians have right. So, or Austrian economic people, I should say. Maybe I shouldn't say libertarians. I don't know. But then they turn around and it's like the assumption is that, but if you let the private sector do everything, they'll do fine. Well, but a lot of the private sector is essentially the same. I mean, the government basically just runs like a giant corporation anyway. So there's really no difference between, do you want a giant corporate government or do you want a small government and giant corporations everywhere? I mean, you're going to get this essentially the same thing at the end of the day. So what's the way? I don't think there is any easy answer how to out of all this nonsense. And so many people have just been completely, they've been hit with the retort ray. I mean, the public is just out to lunch, dude. It's just, things are just too crazy. I don't even know what to say.
Andrew Mellon said to Hoover, allegedly, in the 1930s, which is that liquidating labor, liquidating stock, liquidating the farmers, liquidating real estate. In other words, allowing losses, private losses to occur, allowing the business cycle to run to completion, allowing firms to go bust, allowing...
Now remember, Bitcoin was created because of the 2008 financial collapse. So what he's talking about here is the very reason why something better than gold was needed. And we're going to talk about how none of that serves the agenda of the CIA. It's ridiculous to think that this all the CIA created. The CIA is who's propping up the Federal Reserve type of stuff. Okay, the British intelligence who created the OSS and the CIA were formed by Fabian socialists. Fabian socialists do not want Bitcoin. But it makes no sense.
Banks to go bankrupt, so forth and so on. That's a process that we've mastered. We've arrested the volatility in the system. And there is a lot of evidence that over the last, call it 50 years, that is, in a sense, what's happened. The U.S. government has intervened in virtually every financial crisis we've had. They've bailed out banks. They've bailed out currencies, not just in the United States, but this has happened all over the world. It's happened in Japan.
And the bailouts are just theft. It's just taking everyone's money, like tax money, that's largely theft, and then bailing out a bunch of corporate goons and banking goons who were making outrageous bets on stuff. So it's just massive, large-scale theft. And people can't even grasp that that was large-scale theft. And then now they can't grasp that the dollar itself is theft.
It's happened in various European countries. However, market forces are not controlled by central banks. They're not controlled by governments. Ultimately, market forces prevail. Now, how do we know that? Because on a long enough time horizon, you have these cycles, and these cycles complete regardless of what some third party, in this case a government or a bank, happens to do. And dangerously, importantly, when you get to end of cycle events, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is that the normal rescue packages, the normal emergency response that a central bank takes to quell a crisis, so call it money printing or call it a bailout facility, it actually has the adverse effect. And we're starting to experience this as we speak. In Japan, there has been a set of consistent policy actions over the last year to stop the decline of the Japanese yen, which is falling apart as we speak.
So notice all of these central banking attempts to stop the collapse doesn't work because the central bank itself is the problem and the cause of the collapse. Do you understand?
I'll show a graphic on the screen. At the same time, we know the Fed in the United States has been trying to squash inflation. And while the rate of inflation has come down, depending on what sector you look at, the accumulated effect of inflation, in other words, the aggregate, the real inflation that people are feeling, is extremely high and moving high.
Yeah, eggs are not back to $4. Do you think eggs are going to go back to $4? Being $11 now? I don't think so. What do y'all think? And, I mean, it doesn't take a PhD in economics to understand. Look, understanding economics is like just researching criminal organizations. If you want to understand what's really going on, understand organized crime. Quintus Curtius said this the other day on Twitter. Yeah, that's why we've been lecturing through the history of organized crime and the mafia. That's why I've been talking to the most famous living mobster hitman alive. Because they understand the way the world really works better than all the goobers on TV. Okay, the goobers on TV don't know half as much as Sammy the Bull knows about how the world really works.
Higher, which means the cost of living is rising no matter what they do. And at the same time, the tactics they're using to squash inflation, raising interest rates.
Somebody said gas in California is $6. Yeah, I'm not surprised, dude. That's crazy. What else is, I mean, gas is not super bad here. Gas is like $5, maybe. No, $4.50, $4 to $4.50, I think. Last time I filled up the tank. But I mean, that's bad enough because I remember not too long ago when gas was like $2. Remember that? That wasn't even that long ago. So, and then have you noticed too how restaurants, like the portions got small? I noticed after COVID, portions from restaurants like got half. Right? You pay like, I don't know, $50 for a meal at a restaurant that used to be a full plate, and then suddenly it's half of that. And it's like, no, the restaurants are like, I don't know, and we always been, yeah, right. Come on, we know what you're up to.
Is actually causing bankruptcies. It's causing financial bubbles to pop everywhere. What all of this tells you is that we're at the end of cycle. And when you get to the end of cycle...
Yeah, I mean, eggs are, $10 to $12 most places now. Like a full carton of eggs. Oregon, $3.80 gas? That's crazy, dude. That's cheap. Well, yeah, depends on which gas you get, right? If you believe in the premium or whatever. I've always got the premium. Maybe that's a scam. Shit, everything's a damn scam, so why not? I'm joking, but...
Cycle. regardless of what the government does, regardless of what the central banks do, you get right back to what Secretary Andrew Mellon said, allegedly, to President Hoover in 1932. Liquidate labor, liquidate stocks, liquidate the farmers, liquidate real estate. Market forces are taking over, and that's the result that will occur, with devastating social consequences, because pensioners will lose their pensions. Medicare recipients will get cut off.
That's the thing I'm wondering. Now, remember in the Gladio operation, when the banks in Italy all collapsed, the Banco d'Ambrosio, the organized crime syndicates and the mobsters and the CIA looted the pensions. So all the people that had paid into these like a generation of those Italians they lost their pensions. I don't know what, I mean, boomers probably just, whatever the system says, boomers worship it, right? If a boomer doctor comes and says, cut your weenus off because it's, a tumor, a boomer will be like, oh, do it, cut it off, right? I mean, they worship doctors. Doctors can do no wrong. And so my thinking is that, well, that's probably the same way they treat pensions too, right? They just assume that, well, my wealth advisor at what's those wealth advisor places they have? What's the ones that are in every city? Like every boomer has a wealth advisor for, what am I trying to think of? Edward Jones Investments, that kind of stuff, right? Well, put it into a pension, or whatever the plan is. I mean, I can't imagine trusting this stuff. I think what's going to happen is that all the people who, here's what I think's happening. In 2019 to 2020, people who were already beginning to have fears that the system is not their friend and is cracking, they mentally cracked. I think a lot of people lost their mind in 2020 when COOF happened, and they freaked out and doubled down, and now they worship and love the system that is their Stockholm Syndrome abuser. Because I can't fathom who in their right mind could think that Kamala Harris, is somebody who's competent and sane and could run a country or whatever, as if we know the president doesn't really run the country, okay? But from the boomer mindset, and all the people who are like, they were able to create within a few weeks from nothing, because everybody thought Kamala was a joke like 3 weeks ago, and with 2 straight weeks of media mind control, they have spun this story that Kamala is actually in the running, great, genius, capable, and about to beat Trump. It's all just completely created out of thin air. And so it's like, wow, the media still has a lot of power. How else could they have created such a ridiculous, when everybody thought she was ridiculous, literally like 3 weeks ago. So they've created some kind of like total golem creature of the mind of the mass public that can just literally be switched in any direction that they want at a whim within a week or two. They could have, if they wanted to think of the whole country worshiping Trump within a week if they wanted to. That's how, I can't believe they still have that power. Can you believe they've created this story? And there's no way it's true. There's absolutely no way 3 weeks ago that everybody believed Kamala was like, oh, neck and neck with Trump. And within 2 or 3 weeks, they've created that perception. It's just insane. I can't believe how dumb people are. But the more that I think I can't believe how dumb people are, then people surprise me and amaze me with, no, they can go to the next level of dumb. They can always outdo the dumb. Literally, like to the next level. To the extreme, like Vanilla Ice says, right? Dumb to the extreme. VIP posse to the extreme.
Governments will default. which I know at this stage seems impossible. How could such a thing occur? The dollar's too strong, or other countries desperately need us, whatever. But governments, central banks do not control market forces. Market forces respond to the inputs in the system. And if those inputs are unsustainable, which is case in point the US government today, its spending habits, its deficits.
Yes. Now here's that debt clock, or debt, whatever they call it. Let's see, what is that? 34 trillion? Somebody needs to just cancel this shit, because it's all fraudulent. Just write on a piece of paper, sorry, this is a bunch of fraud, I will not pay. And then just send that over to, Ben Bernanke or whoever is in it. Mail that off to the Rothschilds or whatever. But sorry, F you. Sorry, governor, we won't be paying you. Right? Something like that. Because you can't pay it. So, no, we don't need to have a bunch of Bitcoin reserves to pay this off. That would just be giving them all the Bitcoin. Don't do that. That's crazy. Just cancel this shit. Be like, nah, dude, we're all good. We all good now. Just send a letter to Lord Rothschild saying, nah, dude, we good. We're straight. You got enough money. We're straight. You're good.
The relationships that it has internationally. If you add all of these things together, you can see where this is headed. Unfortunately, very few people accept what I'm saying. And they believe without a shadow of a doubt that no matter what happens, the government is going to come and rescue them.
Yeah, that's people. Everybody's in these cults, and politics is a cult. They worship it. It's the religion next to football. I don't know which one's bigger. Probably politics. Politics is America's #1 religion, because a lot of women don't care about football, but they care about Kamala, and they think that they're going to vote for a woman and she's a strong woman and all this nonsense. So women care about politics and activism and all this nonsense, right? So yeah, I think politics is the #1 religion. It's a cult, and that's why people double down on their cult. I was just thinking the other day about my boss when I was a teenager. I worked in a paint store for 10 years. It was my high school job, and I love the people that gave me that job, but they were hapless, helpless boomers and greatest generation, whatever that generation was. And they were lifelong Democrats, and it's a little bit different in the South because you have this older tradition of what they call Dixiecrats, who were like old school Democrats or whatever. Anyway, that doesn't really exist anymore, because now the Democratic Party is like all just total, just creeps, right? Furries, dude. The furry party, basically. And I remember talking to my bosses one day, and I respected them because they were my elders, even though I was like a super rebellious party dude in high school. And I remember we were having this conversation at work one day, and my boss was like, the older woman that ran the store that owned it, she was like in her 80s, right? And she had gone to Sunday school in the Methodist church her entire life. I kid you not. So she's an intelligent woman. She started a business and ran it and was successful. She owned, she wasn't rich, but she owned many properties and had rental houses and, a competent business person. And I kid you not, she said to me one day, was Jesus Jewish? And I'm like, what do you talk about for 80 years in Sunday school at the Methodist church? Like, how do you not know that? I mean, in the sense of like, what religion was he raised in? Okay, and yes, it's Judaism. It's John 4. Salvation's of the Jews. Okay, we're not here to debate that. And I know what rabbinical Judaism is. I don't need to have this. I knew this stuff before any of you in the chat knew this. You don't have to correct me on shit that I knew way before all y'all did. Rabbinical Judaism is not first century Judaism. Yeah, I knew all that. way before you did. Okay. I guarantee you, I know more about these topics than all the nerds in the chat that try to correct me. I have this, and I've been reading these things for way longer than you. You were pooping your diapers, and I knew this stuff. Anyway, I'm being silly, but then I was like, wait a minute. So you've spent 80 years in going to church every day, not every day, every Sunday, and you didn't even know what religion Jesus came to fulfill? Like, what do you talk about in Sunday school? And she was saying that this was a debate in her 80-year-old grandmother class at Sunday school. That's like Christianity 101. Anyway. And then I realized we had another conversation around that time about them being Democrats. Okay, now I was an idiot teenager, and I was just raised GOP Baptist. Okay, so I didn't know anything about politics, but I was trying to figure out why my bosses and where I worked were Democrats. Because, again, I was stuck in party politics as an idiot teenager. I didn't know. Nobody in the 90s knew any better anyway. Everybody believed in stupid party politics for the most, like 99% of everybody. Because you just never even thought about other options. You just saw, oh, well, you know, I believe in pro-life and I believe in Jesus and, you know, we should have low taxes and constitutional government. And Democrats, I don't know, disagree with some of that or whatever. But it was about Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton comes up at work because he was president at the time. And I was like, you know that dude is a total, like, crook, right? And my bosses got so mad. And I'm like, it is so obvious that that dude is a total criminal. And even if you want to believe in your party or whatever, like, surely you at least recognize that that's a crook. And they were furious. Like, there was this huge uproarious debate at work. And they were like, Bush is a crook. And I'm like, okay, maybe he is. I wasn't wedded to George Bush. But I noticed that there was no ability at all to think objectively about maybe Bush and Clinton were crooks or something like that. I mean, I was just saying theoretically. I wasn't anti-Bush. I didn't know anything about it other than that, okay, well, my family is, you know, GOP, Republican, Baptist, and we, you know, but I wasn't wedded to Bush. Like he couldn't be a crook or something. But I noticed that they had a religious attachment to Bill Clinton. Why? What in the world were these people thinking? And then I started thinking, this is like a religion or something. Like, even before I knew anything in the 90s, I realized my bosses are kind of stupid. Like, I mean, they might be good at running a paint store, but they're retorts at everything else. Do you know what I mean? So it started becoming obvious to me that because people treat these things with these emotional attachments that make absolutely no sense. Like, why on earth? Could you imagine being emotionally attached to defending Clinton? I don't know. It's bizarre. But so that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people who still operate like that. Whoa. Mind blowing. That's crazy to think about right there. Could you imagine still thinking like, well, my family's always been a Democrat, so I support Joe no matter what. Joe tells me Kamala and AOC say all the white people need to go away. I guess we do. I hate myself so much. That's how they are. Like, what is wrong with you? That's the crazy part, is that you can engineer people to choose their own worst interest. Right? That's crazy. Remember the Rand Corporation? It was all built around rational choice theory that people always choose in their own best interest. Oh yeah? Have you met the boomers yet? Rand Corporation? Have you met a boomer Democrat? Rand Corporation? They will choose their own worst interest every time. That's how crazy these people are. And the only reason I'm not being as hard on the GOP, who are equally almost as dumb, is just simply that they're not as degenerate. That's it. At least most of the GOP who are, quote, Christians. I'm not talking about uniparty, all this. I'm talking about like the average Bible belt Republican type of person. Like, they're pro-gun, they're pro-life. They think they believe in Jesus. They don't want Skittles everywhere. Okay. That's at least not as degenerate as the furry party. Okay, now they're both bad. But anyway. How did we get? We went from inflation to furries. I started telling stories from the 90s about my bosses. I'll never forget that conversation about Bill Clinton. I'm like, and it always amazed me. I'm thinking, how do these people run a business? Like, it seems like if you were smart enough to create a business and run it and function throughout the day, but you religiously are attached to Bill Clinton, but you don't even know what religion Jesus came from. This just, like, how do these people function? I don't understand. It's wild. It's a wild world. I'm over here like, how do you put your pants on? Okay, whatever. We got a few fun boys and girls in the chat. Shout out to the super chatters. Bobby C. He's C walking. Bobby C. He says, this was a great day. Bitcoin was actually at a huge discount. Exactly. Thank you, Bobby C, for saying exactly what I'm saying. People, listen, family members are like, well, guess I could have got some Bitcoin when it was under 50, 60. And then when it goes back, they get scared and they don't buy it. And I'm like, you had the other day to buy it. Oh, I got scared. What are you scared of? It's like, it's a huge red light sale. What a Kmart used to have? Red light sale? Is that what it was? Kmart? Does Kmart even exist? Or is it gone? I don't even know. I was thinking the other day about things from the 90s that don't exist anymore. Didn't Twinkies go away? Remember Twinkies? I mean, Twinkies are gross, but I was thinking, like, what if I went back in time to the 90s and I was like walking around and hanging out with my friends, and they would be weirded out because I would be over there staring at Twinkies. They'd be like, what's the future like? What's the future like? And I'd be like, huh, I remember Twinkies. And then they would be like, there's no Twinkies in the future? No, dude, Twinkies went out of business, man. They're gone. Anyway, I don't even like Twinkies, but it would just be weird to go back to the 90s and all the stuff that he was. That's because Jamie and I have been watching 90s movies. And one of the things that's fun about 90s movies is that you see all the stuff in the background and all the things. Like Goldie Hawn talking on a giant cordless boxy phone. And you're like, oh, remember those cordless phones? They had the big long antenna. Big cordless phone. Now, so Twinkies are still around. Well, Twinkies went out of business, though. Remember that? So they got rescued. They had to get, they got bought out because they went away for a while. I'm serious. Twinkies went away. But there's other things from the 90s that went away. Like wholesomeness. Oh, remember wholesomeness? Remember basic morals? Remember when that went away? I'm trying to think of what else. Blue light special. That's Kmart. Thank you. I'm thinking of the red light district. There's all kinds of fun stuff in 90s movies. Anonymous, $5. Jay, what would be your advice for about somebody wanting to make a big purchase like a home right now? Should I hold off due to the nefarious plans of the WEF? Well, you know what? This is an interesting question because we have invested in real estate. And I've gone back and forth on whether I thought that was a good idea. Now, it turns out that the properties have all gone up. So it wasn't a terrible investment. And if I choose to sell some of the properties, we would make significant profits. I mean, I think it looks like. So we would do really well if we sold. I really want to sell and put it all into Bitcoin. That's the plan, which I'm trying to figure out whether it will be wise to do that, because I think a big part of that will be based around people's attitudes with the election. So your question is the very same question I'm asking myself, not because I'm afraid of Bitcoin going away, or I don't even want I'm the triple maxi mindset that Saylor is talking about. So you got to figure out what, if you're wanting to start a family and all that, maybe you need a house and it's time for you to do that. Maybe triple maxi mindset is not what's appropriate for you if you're married with kids. So everybody, when people ask me these questions, and I'm not a registered financial advisor, it really depends on your situation. So we're in a situation where we have the ability to invest. And really, for me, it's just a matter of, well, what's the smartest move for that investment? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. That's why we're watching these videos, because it's just, everything is so crazy. Like, are we going to get a financial collapse? I mean, I've been saying, like, that's on the back burner. Nobody's been talking about financial collapse. And I've been talking about that, and that's on the back burner. And everybody's thinking, oh, Birdemic. Oh, it's going to be World War III. What else? Riots, right? Election riots or whatever. I don't know. So we're surveying the scene and looking at the different possibilities. They might roll them all out. Dude, what if they rolled them all out? That would be wild. If that happens, I would say get out of the city and find a place in the country. So I don't know if I can't tell you if it's wise to hold off on buying a house, because it really just depends on all the other factors in your situation. It also depends on where your house is. You know what I mean? Like, are you talking about buying a house in like downtown Manhattan? You know what I mean? Hell no. Are you talking about buying a trailer park in Tennessee? Hell yeah. Boomer Ecumenical Council, $3. Things are getting willy queepy in just a few minutes. Queepy, isn't it? That's my James LaFleur impression. Exactly. Things are getting creepy. My plan was to watch spooky videos and joke around. And here we are talking about freaking Federal Reserve, John Galt, how hot Ayn Rand is, and housing markets. But I love it. I love that. Let's just accept the madness and roll with it. Mike Robertson, $10. Have you ever had a crazy religious experience that you could share? I did my video on my bad trip, so you could go back and watch my bad trip video, my trip report. Holla. Where I talked about my encounter with the entity of light. But that's about my only like crazy religious experience. Like, I've never had we had a few interesting experiences at church that I can't really explain. But I don't know if I would say they were crazy religious experiences. Just my bad acid trip and seeing the entity of light is about the only spiritual experience I would say I've had. But that was when I was 17. So that was a long time ago. But I did a video on it, which you can go watch that on my channel. Storm the Cat, $5. Have you ever played Half-Life? Is that old ass game? I think I did play it one time. I remember like a guy's face or something. Yeah, that guy's face. I remember that guy's face. I don't remember anything about it. I think I played it one time. That's from, early 2000s? Is that where that's from? Is there a connection between Black Mesa and Black Rock? I'm assuming that that's something in the game, some kind of entity. I don't know. It could be. I mean, a lot of times video games do have interesting predictive programming that's overlooked, but I don't remember enough about Half-Life to recall. Let's see if we can pull up a little Half-Life here. Yeah, this is definitely like 2003, 4, 5 era video games. Yeah, I did play this once over at my buddy Tommy's house. I think we played this on his computer. I think he had it on a PC. Anyway. So I guess there's some private entity in there that's like BlackRock. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know what they based it on. BMX 1966, $10. Thank you so much, BMX. Appreciate that. Thank you guys for these super chats. We're doing a fun little stream tonight. We've been talking about the economy. Where's it going? Listening to updates. Now, things are popping off in the UK, and I want to talk about what I think is going on there because I put this book up, which you all know that I've been lecturing through for a long time. And apparently nobody on Twitter had ever heard of this book except for a handful of people. And I don't understand why everybody shared this. Like, suddenly everybody's interested in this book, which is good. But yes, the book is out of print. I don't know what to tell you. And then, like, I already got like 100 followers from this. I don't even understand why. So, over 1,000 people liked this when I put it up a couple hours ago. This is kind of mystifying me. And then all these people are know-it-alls and smartasses in the comments are like, yeah, but does it talk about you know who? Well, this just shows me how many of you people don't read and don't read books. Because you would know what all it talks about if you'd read it. But of course, nobody reads books. So, and why is everybody suddenly interested in this book? This book is way too expensive. This book costs 300 quid. Well, that's a damn sea creature. You can't pay with sea creatures, dude. You can't pay with a quid. No wonder Muslims are rioting and taking over the UK. You try to pay for shit with squids. Oh, mate, it's 300 quid. You can't pay with a squid, dude. So, a bunch of Muslims are yelling Allahu Akbar, right? And this looks like an area, I think I've been to this area. That looks like an area of London I've been to. I'm assuming that's London. No, it's not. Manchester. Now, you've got thousands of Muslims saying Allah Akbar, and everybody's forgotten what the neocons had planned long ago. Y'all remember Clash of Civilizations? The remaking of the world order? And who was Samuel Huntington's mentor? Bernard Lewis of the UK. The arch neocon of neocons. And yes, they were closely, if I recall, associated with the Rothschilds. So thank you for reminding me of all the things I already knew and have talked about for a long time. Now, Brzezinski, Kissinger, all big fans of this book. They read this book. Henry Kissinger said that Samuel Huntington is one of the most eminent political scientists. This is a crucial book for geopolitics and the remaking of the world order since the Cold War. This is why we spent so much time in the last few years going through and lecturing on the Cold War, because you can't really understand what all is going on today without understanding the Cold War. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, the question then became, okay, well, now what's the conflict? And remember, it's always a managed dialectic. And so you could say, well, it's in part a managed dialectic between Eurasia and the West. But what's the ideological conflict? And that's where Huntington and others get into more detail, talking about how the future conflicts will also be based around ideological differences. And there's just an incompatible system that Islam holds to, ultimately and fundamentally, and the system of the West. The West's neoliberalism and post-Enlightenment philosophies and economic theories and atheistic assumptions do not mesh with the overall theocratic views of Islam. So there must then be a dialectical clash and conflict. Now keep in mind that Judaism does not believe that Jews, Christians, and Muslims all worship the same God. Idiot Roman Catholics think that Jews, Christians, and Muslims all worship the same God because Vatican II says that. Jews believe that Muslims and Jews worship the same Unitarian God. Did you know that? At least most of the Jews or rabbis that you see on videos will say this. Christians, unless they're totally stupid and idiotic and follow Francis and Vatican II, should understand that Jews, Christians, and Muslims do not worship the same God. Because if it's not the Trinity, it's not the same God. And interviews with Muslims and rabbis will consistently show you that they believe those two worship the same deity. So, from the vantage point of a Jewish person, he has no problem with a Jew or with a Muslim and a Christian going at it. Muslims ultimately have a problem with Christ. And every time I talk about this on Twitter, all the idiots who don't know anything chime in to correct me, because there's a zillion Muslims all over Twitter that try to make Islam into like this new friend of Christianity. No, it's not. I can't believe how stupid everybody is. And part of it is just people's ignorance about religion and theology. And I have to admit that even though I knew a lot of theology 10 years ago, I didn't know very much about Islam. And I thought that Islam was not as bad as the neoconservatives and the post-Big Nine event people talked about it to be. Now, I do not believe the official story of Big Nine, so don't misunderstand me here. None of my views on that have changed. What has changed is that, no, Islam is a lot crazier than I thought. This is a wild religion, okay? So, all the right-wingers are being duped into thinking that Islam is their ally, and do you see? Does it look like Islam is anyone's ally in the streets of the UK? Brother, we believe Jesus is prophet. The Talmud talk about boiling feces. Do you not know? Like, I didn't know this. I knew what the Talmud said about Jesus in 2004. Yes, I know. I know all of this stuff. So everybody floods the Twitter with all of the shit that I knew 15 years ago. Like, I don't know that. And I'm like, yeah, I know all that, but that doesn't make Islam good. Don't you understand? Islam is Antichrist. Brother, not Antichrist. Jesus is prophet of Allah. Yeah, but if you deny God in the flesh, John says, you're of the spirit of Antichrist. And it doesn't matter what, Arius, Eunomius, called Jesus a great prophet, and even more than a son of God. And he's still, Arius and Eunomius are sons of Satan. Anyway, so no, Islam is not anybody's ally. All of these idiot right-wingers are so stupid. They're almost as dumb as the left-wingers. And people don't understand the higher geopolitical stuff going on to instigate and set this kind of stuff off. Okay, the EU politicians and the UK politicians, they're not anybody's ally. And they're not idiots. Like, we have to hear all these people talking about, they're all idiots. They're all idiots. The boobs in Washington. The boobs in the UK. This is a 100+ year plan to remake Europe and the UK and America. No, it's a bunch of boobs. They're so stupid. You believing that they're a bunch of boobs. Remember that Matt Walsh comment? They're so dumb in Washington. No. When are we ever going to get past the fact that all of these high-level people have written books about their plans? That's why I put this book up. Now, how did this happen in the UK? Well, guess what happened? 100 years ago, well, over 100 years ago, the Fabian socialists said explicitly, the problem with Europe and the UK is their Caucasian Christian population. If we want to remake this whole continent, and by extension, the whole world, we're going to need tools to do that. Literally, there's an entire, it's all in this chapter right here, citing all of the people who did this and what their plans were. They said, in order to get this new order of the ages, we're going to need to bring in a new ideology to replace the rotting corpse of Christianity in the UK known as the Church of England. What might we bring in? What religion and groups of people are adjacent or closely adjacent to the EU to bring in to remake the entire continent? I wonder what options there are. Well, it turns out the Fabians were all openly mega fans of Islam. Now you think, what in the world would Fabian socialists and Muslims have in common? Well, at least on paper, not a whole lot. However, as geopolitical chess pieces, they have a lot in common. The Fabian socialists in the 1890s, as well as their masters, Lord Milner, Cecil Rhodes, Lord Rothschild, they figured out that Islam would be the perfect tool to completely remake European society. H.G. Wells, one of their luminaries, who wrote all of the books about how to do this, was very pro-Islam. Did you know H.G. Wells is pro-Islam? Wells praised Islam in his writings, for example, Short History of the World. Muhammad is a great Protestant religious force, Wells said. Other leading Fabians were apologists for Islam, including Annie Besant in her 1932 stuff and Bertrand Russell in his 1945 stuff. They believed that Islam would be the key to remaking Europe. Why do they like Islam? They believe that their socialist ideas were never going to work if Christianity of any form was still in place in the UK and in Europe. So they got the idea to begin to warm up the UK to Islam through bringing in Sufis. This is why the Sufis have always had this close connection to Western intelligence. And we were just looking at one of the most famous Sufis out there the other day. I forget what stream it was. The editor of the Islamic Study Bible, what's his name? Syed Hussein Nasser, right? Buddies with Kissinger, goes and teaches in Tehran. I wonder what he might work for. I don't know. It's so hard to figure out. Doesn't he also go and lecture at like Oxford and Cambridge? Okay, yeah, it's obvious. If you can't figure it out, then this isn't for you. The Fabians loved Rumi, and they create these societies for the bringing in of Islam to the UK at the universities. Maybe I should just read this section because people don't remember. Now, you said, wait a minute, though. Wait a minute, Jay. The people marching around, they're not Sufis. Yeah, I'm aware of that. The Fabians are not stupid. They're nefarious, but they're not stupid. They're very calculating and they're very cunning. They thought that we're not going to be able to bring in a bunch of, Salafist, Wahhabist. And I know that this is around the time that the British Empire and British intelligence were forming those alliances with Salafism and Wahhabists. I know all about all that. And by the way, so does Yohan Ratu. That's another reason I respect this book so much, is that he knows the close alliance between British intelligence and radical Islam. Okay, so they got the idea, we got to warm these people up. We can't just bring in, ISIS or whatever. Like, I know ISIS doesn't exist. I'm making a joke. We got to warm them up with the ecumenist Islam, mystical Sufi Islam. And so the Oriental College of Oxford or Cambridge, one of the two. They brought in all of these Middle Eastern scholars and Orientalists and Arabists and all that, which I'm not knocking that itself. I'm just saying that they brought these people in. And then some of the elites in the UK were actually very tempted with Islam. Lord Headley, for example, wrote a book called The Western Awakening to Islam in 1914. In 1916, London's Sufi order was founded by an Indian named Hazrat Inayat Khan, who had taught that Muhammad was the messenger of democracy. Following the footsteps of Khan, Idris Shah, the chief architect of the Sufi deception in Britain and elsewhere, committed what was one of the biggest hoaxes in history. This Indian-born imposter made out that he was in possession of secret knowledge, and through a nationwide promotion of himself and his Sufi mysticism, created a publishing house called Octagon Press in 1960. By 1965, he had founded the Institute for Cultural Research, which was able to promote and push Islam throughout the UK. But he couldn't do this alone. He had influential left-wing Fabian support. Support also came from Robert Graves, a fiction writer and friend of Edward Carpenter, and other Fabians like Doris Lessing. The Fabian Leftist Book Club promoted communism, Fabianism, and Sufi philosophies throughout. This is crazy. Now you wonder, well, so what about Prince Charles? Yeah, exactly. That's why Prince Charles promotes and loves Sufism. You didn't know that? All of this prepared the way for today's Londonistan. It was an Islamicization at Oxford and other places by design. And that's how we get to Sadiq Khan, right? Labour Party played a key role in all of this, by the way. So people say, but it's all Jewish. It's not all that. It's partly elements of that, because yes, Lord Rothschild has that worldview. But if you didn't have within the elite structure of the UK aside from Lord Rothschild and Balfour, many of the UK elites, including the king, were Islamophiles. Many of them. And that's discussed in Tragedy and Hope. Anglo-American Savage, excuse me. So the continual promotion of Sufism and Neoplatonism and the New Age movement, because remember, Madame Blavatsky is also pushing all the same stuff, eventually led to the total capitulation of the UK out of anything Christian. So this was we're talking about a 100-year-ish plan. Remember Annie Besant, we just mentioned Annie Besant. Annie Besant said, she said, I have a 10-point plan to destroy Christian civilization. Remember that? We did a whole live stream on it. And her plan worked because she also is a supporter of the Islamicization of the UK and Europe. What is Sufism in the UK? Well, in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, Sufism was am I still here? The live stream's acting weird. Okay. Hopefully we're still going, right? Can you guys see me? I got a weird pop up there. Anyway. So Sufism was a way to warm up the UK to the next phase, which would be to bring in more and more radical or Orthodox and then Sunni Muslims. So it's not liberal politicians. It's a 100+ year plan. That's the point I'm trying to make. And the British security services have never prevented or stopped any of this. I mean, all of the, like 7/7, okay, all of these things relate to this. And Rati is perceptive enough to understand, wait a minute, how come British intelligence wasn't stopping any of this? Because they didn't want to stop it. Because it's part of the architecture of design to change Europe. Explicitly. We just read Jacques Attali, his book Millennium from 1990. He said the exact same thing. No, the plan is to completely change the continent. And he mentions Islam. Correct. Lawrence of Arabia. It's not all his fault, but that's part of this story of Arabists amongst the elite. So Islam is really just a chess piece, a tool that the elite use to completely change these places. And that's by design. And none of the right-wingers can ever figure this out, or they never talk about it. Now, next up, I want to talk about the events, which I can't play this, but so there was a big meeting that happened, and at this big meeting, global United Nations type of meeting, this is a clip from the old 2020 event. They're talking about how we got to pass these new powers in New Zealand. And remember, Australia, New Zealand, these were test areas for what they tried to roll out elsewhere. Remember that? During COOF. So now it's Birdemic. And they're discussing rolling out the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? Lockstep. Okay, we talked about all that. That's what I'm talking about. So, who cares about New Zealand? Well, New Zealand, again, if you think about Australia and New Zealand as test cases, in the document, the white paper that is linked there, it says that, we're going to have border controls. Well, wait a minute. I thought there's not border controls. No, when there's a birdemic, there's got to be border controls. And your traveling will be restricted and controlled. This is basically another form of stabby passport, is what it says right here. It doesn't exist. They're not going to push for a stabby passport. They're going to try everything again. Isn't that crazy? So we might just have Birdemic, dude. Birdemic will be COOF Part 2. That's what I'm trying to say, if you follow me. Anyway, it's all covered right there in that video. You can follow me on Twitter, and you'll see that. X, whatever. And there's the white paper right there. So they're literally going, they're talking about 2020 all over again. Well, they'll never do it. No, now, I mean, when I first heard this, I was like, they won't do that again. They won't get away with that. And then I'm like, no, they will. They will, won't they? And everybody will just go along with it. What do you think? Do you think they will go along with it? What do you guys think? I mentioned this the other day to somebody, and they didn't believe it. I was like, I remember when Lord Voldemort interviewed Gary Busey, and somebody found this on YouTube. That's crazy. Not only that, I remember his stand-up. Yes, Lord Voldemort did stand-up. I might have to do this I thought it'd be funny to analyze this. Lord Voldemort doing stand-up. And the funny part is that his stand-up is just him yelling at the crowd like it's his show. Which is actually really funny. So he opened for Doug Stanhope. I thought it was Joe Rogan. I was trying to remember this because I remember at the time I was listening to Lord Voldemort at the time, and I mean back at this. This is around the time I was first starting to get into Lord Voldemort, probably 2002, and I was like, he's gonna do stand up. That's crazy. But the stand-up is just Alex yelling at the crowd, which is actually really funny.
$4 trillion in oil? Oh, we wouldn't do that over oil. We're just the big badasses in the 100-story buildings that...
So the stand-up is just Alex yelling at the crowd like it's a show, which is actually really funny. Anyway, I just had to talk about that because that popped up. But I probably can't get away with playing that whole thing on here. And then this interview with Gary Busey, which is odd. Gary Busey's Malibu House, The Meaning of Life. Why should we think? Why would we think Gary Busey knows the meaning of life? I mean, it's funny, but. And then this was wild. This popped up too. I think Alex put this on Twitter, but Joe Rogan and Alex arguing about weed legalization in 2003. Just some wild old school stuff popping up. All right, now this I want to talk about. Let's get crazy in here. We talked about all this other. Let's talk about ghosts and shit now. You want to talk about some ghosts? In just a few minutes. That's my James LaFleur. Is this an instance of pareidolia? That's my slapped ham. Number 3. I hope that the people are okay. And that's my chills. What do you think of that? You got 3 spooky channel impressions for free in a row. By the way, I might have to add them to my impression roster. Relixer sends $5. Thank you so much, Relixer. Appreciate that. Guys, you all want to talk about ghosts, or am I going to run everybody off? This popped up, and I'm like, wait a minute. Now Tucker's talking about beings taking physical form. I got to hear this. But I think Tucker is totally wrong about what he said about Bitcoin. Maybe he was joking, because I saw a clip. And it was like a clipped together. I hate these AI 60-second, 30-second shorts. This is so annoying. I can't believe the whole world is going. I can't. It's all stupid. Everybody's having their minds fried with 30-second clips because of TikTok, and now it's going everywhere. And who knows if it's even... I mean, I didn't listen to his whole talk, but Bitcoin is not created by the CIA. And the argument was because Satoshi Nakamoto can mean intelligence in Japanese. Oh my gosh. So because the word means intelligence, it can mean that, by the way. Therefore, it's the central intelligence. That's a non sequitur. This is so silly. And he already had Max Kaiser and Michael Saylor on his show. Why would he think that? Maybe he was joking. Okay, but now I got to hear about ghosts and stuff. Let's hear Tucker on ghosts. What? Or is he talking about aliens?
What's up? And that they're just...
Pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, dark chocolate, avocados. These are baseline foods that need to be in your kitchen right now.
Just like way smarter than everybody. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I mean, that shouldn't be surprising either. I mean, again, I just can't believe that in the end, when it really gets intense, as it is now, that it's Christians, it's people who actually believe the Bible are the only ones with wisdom who understand what's really going on.
Well, that's true. And by the way, why did you have Doug Wilson on? Ugh. Come on, Tucker. Like, that's straight up just boomer cringe.
They're not shocked at all.
Let me tell you why.
You should have me on, not Doug Wilson.
Not in the last year. So there are a lot of things that are obvious to you and your viewers and that are not obvious to me that I'm just learning. I'm like, wow, I really do feel like.
Hey, who is Sean Ryan? Is this some former CIA guy or something? I mean, Living Waters, that's got to be some evangelical goofy thing.
The last soldier, you know, like coming out and being like, the war's over, really? And everyone's like, yeah, it's been 20 years, you know, that's like how I feel. And so people with this weird and destructive instinct, that's what it is. It's not
Y'all like my Tucker laugh?
It's an instinct, have taken over all the levers of power. I think it's like a spiritual force. That's my personal view. I can't prove it, but I really believe it. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's something else. But that's what I
The devil. Jesus said of the religious leaders, you are of your father the devil, and the desires of your father.
Who is this evangelical with this British voice here? You are of your father the devil. Oh, I'm an evangelical.
You want to do.
I was talking to someone recently, and he said to me, he goes, I'm not excited to die. I've got all these kids or whatever. No one wants to die, but I'm kind of psyched to like understand what all this is. Yeah, I feel that way.
You do?
Totally. And I'm not looking forward to death at all. I happen not to be afraid of it.
You want the answers.
Who is this person? Is this a former CIA guy or something? Y'all like my Tucker laugh? That was pretty good, wasn't it? No, Tucker's dad was in the CIA, and then Tucker wanted to be in the CIA at one time. I don't think he wants to be that now. What's up, y'all? Thank you. You've been following me for 10 years? Globetrotter? Damn, boy. Half of this chat is CIA. Is that Ray Comfort? Oh, man. Evangelical prophets and that kind of stuff. That stuff is that Ray? Who's Ray Comfort? And he's like a. I'm thinking of Carmen. I'm getting my Carmen and my Ray Comfort mixed up. And then who's that one that? Who's that evangelical dude that sings all the super emo songs? He's so annoying to me. One of my buddies used to listen to that guy. He loved him. He's one of those 70s dudes that converted and became like a super duper Christian crying at a piano man with a white dude with an afro crying at a piano all the time. Crying about Jesus at his piano. What's that guy's name? Keith Green. Ugh. Freaking Keith Green, dude. Ugh. Remember Keith Green? White hippie man with a Jew fro crying at the piano. It's like, okay, maybe if you're crying over your sins at one point, but dude, if you're crying every time you're singing, come on, man. He just looks so, I don't know. He looks like he would be in a, I don't know, in a boomer weed band, you know what I mean? Like a Doobie Brother or something.
The truth is, behind closed doors, the P word became my secret sin at age 10.
So, if, what's Keith, remember Keith Green?
There
He's like evangelical Zach Galifianakis. That's what he is.
I'm gonna talk for a second. I bet you got the keyboard. There you go. Make my life a prayer to you. I wanna do what you want me to.
Ugh. I think I'd take Carmen over that, and Carmen is awful. Remember Carmen's video where he, there's like a devil worshiper? I think Jamie showed me this one. I mean, this evangelical stuff, man, no wonder people, it's like, here it is. Carmen's devil worshiper song. Carmen battles a witch. This is it. This one's funny, dude. I've beaten Carmen. I beat Carmen in subscribers. That means I've succeeded in life. Is this Carmen's official channel? Look at that.
How many tonight?
The official Carmen channel has 88,000. I'm beating Carmen. I've made it. But if you didn't know, he can also show you how to ward off the witches and the Satanists. He got an invitation from a witch. And the Satanist is going to challenge him to a spiritual battle in a damn castle. And of course, the Satanist looks like Christopher Walken trying to be Anton LaVey. If Christopher Walken played Anton LaVey versus Carmen in a spiritual battle, don't drink it, Carmen. Don't drink it. It's a satanic brew. It's gonna put you under a spell. Don't drink it. What? That is so corny, dude. Anyway, back to Tucker and the ghosts. This dude looks like a hitman right here. This is another hitman.
Do you think we're going into World War III?
We're really close to it, as you know. Yeah, if you see a human movement that's anti-human, the push toward nuclear war for its own sake is by definition anti-human, I would say. Like any movement that's anti-human is probably not human. Do dogs act against their own collective interest? Do caribou? Do porcupines? Do single-cell amoeba? Do sea cucumbers? No, none of them do. No animal does that because it's not natural. Animals are part of nature. They do natural things. People are subject to
that's what we were just talking about, though, right?
They kill themselves.
People can be engineered.
Kills itself. So
people can be engineered to act against their own interests. That's the crazy part. People can be engineered to consistently act in their own worst interest. That's the crazy part of tonight's stream.
When you kill yourself, whether slowly or all in the spiritual realm, that has been a constant belief since the beginning of history, recorded history. Everybody has thought that, except us in the West, since 1945. I can't say that enough. So once you get perspective on this question, you're like, okay, that may sound crazy to someone who thinks buying on Amazon is the meaning of life. But to every other person in the world, we may disagree about what the truth is. I'm sure we will. But we will never disagree with the fact that there's a lot going on that we cannot see or measure with our senses. That is absolutely true.
We talked this morning about my experience about, get slapped in the face by God, basically.
Yes.
Right?
Every evangelical's account is always this experience, right? And it's like experiences are not totally unimportant, but one of the great things about orthodoxy is that it's not always just about some experience that you had. And I think it's very tiring and it's very dangerous when you base your religious perspectives on the emotional heightened experiences that you have. That's the danger of that.
Pretty much everybody on my team.
Because when you stop feeling the emotions, you start to think, oh, maybe I don't feel God anymore. Well, God never was your emotions. So you're mistaking your emotional ups and downs and all that. That's what evangelicalism and charismaticism is basically based on.
Extremely well versed in the Bible.
Yeah.
And they bring me up to speed in a hurry. But I mean, even just
those are the wisest people I've discovered.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There's nowhere you can look and go, that makes sense anymore. Nothing makes any sense at all. The confusion of genders, it's everywhere you look.
And only the Bible readers are prepared to understand it. That's what I've...
No, Tucker is not Roman Catholic. He's still Episcopal. And his bracelet is not Kabbalah bracelet. I asked Scooter what it is. It's a rubber band because he wears certain rubber bands to remind himself of stuff. It has nothing to do with Kabbalah. Tucker is like a mainline Episcopalian. So, no, it's not like, oh, everybody's a secret Kabbalist. No, people are not secret Kabbalists.
Because everything is the opposite of what you were told. So you were told that all the Bible readers were the most superstitious and inflexible and stupid and lacking.
So you're saying Ray Comfort is a Reformed Baptist and this is his channel? So Reformed Baptists I can't even get that doesn't sound right. Reformed Baptist. I don't think you know what you're talking about.
This man's name is Kevin. You'll hear me call him by that name a number of times, but during the interview...
Isn't Ray Comfort an evangelical Zionist? Because I've seen him talking about Israel and a bunch of nonsense.
We get together and we get to talk about the amazing...
And we moved to this big dome building 5 stories up, and I said, come up and see me. So she came into my office, and we talked.
That does sound like his voice. Anyway, where's the good part? This is just getting annoying.
Wisdom and common sense, and they couldn't see reality, and like...
And you'll find out why it is that Christians are the only ones that know what's up. Do you think life is a little weird?
Oh, for sure.
It's like a repetitiveness. Waking up, work, go home, sleep, do it again, over and over and over.
Do you believe in God?
Not specifically, no.
How do you think everything... Tonight, and here's the Gospel of John I said you're going to like. The 4th book of the New Testament.
So he gave him a fake $100 bill tract. That's the Gospel of John. You know, it's really silly when evangelicals hand out one book like the Gospel of John, because it makes no sense without the rest of the Bible. And I know that evangelicals have good intentions when they do that, but this is silly, right? I mean, it's like when you open up, if I was a total normie atheist person and I open up the Gospel of John and I read the lamb's, you know, the I'm not the lamb. When John the Baptist is talking about Jesus as the lamb, what's the lamb? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it makes no sense, right? And then it's just, these people are just... Anyway, so this was a clipped video of a bunch of crap out of context, and it didn't even talk about supernatural beings. Where was the supernatural being part? Is there anybody goofier than evangelicals? I mean, come on. I thought I was going to get Tucker talking about ghosts or something. That was a stink bomb video. Relixer, $5. There are no mistakes, only happy accidents. I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not sure what that means. But look, guys, we do have an amazing, wonderful sponsor that I have to tell you about. And that sponsor is Chalk.com, the best in supplementation. Head on over to Chalk.com, use the promo code J50 to get 50%, no, excuse me, J44Life, JAY44LIFE, JAY44LIFE. Use the promo code to get 44% off the Tonkat Elite. That's my favorite. But there's a ton of other products over there that might fit you and your needs. And they're an awesome based red pill company. They also have a new product called Chad Mode, which is a pre-workout.
Chad Mode is your ultimate natural pre-workout, designed to take your performance to the next level. Chad Mode is for Natty Beast alphas only. Whether you're hitting the gym, invading a favela, conquering a small village, gambling, burning the midnight oil, mogging on your coworkers, or getting banned from Facebook, Chad Mode gives you the competitive edge you need. It's as simple as mixing 1 or 2 scoops of our fine powder into water or juice, providing you with a delicious, energizing beverage featuring a burst of sweet, organic fruit flavor. Chad Mode will give you the extra edge you desperately crave. Chad Mode stands out from the crowd by excluding artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, and dyes. We've even avoided so-called natural flavors, ensuring a clean and effective formula. Only soy boys and betas guzzle blue dye and sucralose, further tanking their already low testosterone levels. Chad Mode is made in America. Unlike your common TikTok peasant's pre-workout powder, it does not contain Chinese lab-made caffeine and artificial sweeteners that soy boys so often crave. Experience the pure goodness of Chad Mode with Blue Magic registered trademark organic blue spirulina extract, organic lemon, cherry, and organic maple crystals. Forget synthetic caffeine. Embrace the natural power of organic green coffee bean extract. Each dose of Chad Mode mirrors the caffeine kick of a cup and a half of coffee, delivering a surge of energy alongside essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbal extracts. Chad mode will allow you to fire your boss and mog on anyone who opposes you. Chad mode will give you a dominant and aggressive edge, like a lion hunting a gazelle, where the gazelle is a TikTok gym zoomer macro guzzling sucralose on the daily, edging to TNF videos. Whether you're seeking a high-potency, junk-free pre-workout or a better way to kickstart your day, Chad mode has you covered. It's not just for men. Chad mode is a solution for anyone ready to conquer their fitness and life goals, dominate their coworkers, and aggressively gamble their life savings. Don't miss out. Secure your supply of Chad mode on TikTok Shop with a limited time massive discount. Elevate your workouts and supercharge your days. Chad mode. Not for your average gym bro zoomer who guzzles synthetic blue dyes on the daily. Buy on the TikTok Shop now with a massive discount provided by TikTok for a very limited time. Buy now while this is still available. Chad mode has been flying off the shelves because it's the first of its kind. Certified for alpha or sigma males only. Do not buy if you are a beta. We will refund your money. Chad mode
I want to
is your
show off something that we're all proud of. I got a browser here. This is Jay Dyer's much vaunted, much sought after Philosophy 101. Now, he just got this page up. We are just testing it out. You guys are some of the first people in the world to see it. I want to say, for my part, it's not Philosophy 101. I think this is a mistitling. I really think of it as like Philosophy Unleashed, because a Philosophy 101 course, they give you kind of some useless information that you can't make sense of. Jay actually lays out over 12 weeks, dozens and dozens of hours put into just the presentation of this, let alone the hundreds and thousands of hours of research that it takes to have a coherent evolution and history of the origins of philosophy, the uses of philosophy, the different ways to look at it over time, and how that has been brought about to what we have today, which is almost an absence of philosophy on the objective logic and reason side, and an overabundance of woke philosophy that is irrational and is made up day by day as people are like, I think we should bring racism back. And then here's a justification. And then it gets wokeified and spread out. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of communist, socialist ideas where you become the property in action. You need to be able to stand your own ground. It helps to have a foundation in philosophy because it's a method to find truth. When you get down to it, philosophy is there because you love truth enough to go and learn how to find it because it's valuable. So if you're interested in things like that, there is the landing page. We'll link it up in the notes. It is a longer one, so we'll get a shorter URL for this. I'm sure Jay has a link on his page. I just wanted to show it off. Now you know it exists. You can go look for it and see why this is not your father's philosophy, right? So well done. I'm proud of everyone who helped to produce and edit the course. And of course, Jay did a flawless job in presenting the course over those 12 weeks. And he's a juggernaut. He's another guy, just like John Bush, in action all the time, doing something productive, like very little wasted time in his week. Those 168 hours are being harnessed very well. I want to show off something that we're all proud of. I got a browser here.
All right. By the way, tonight was a great stream. We had, this might have been one of my biggest streams. I think we almost had 1,200. I don't know that I've ever hit 1,200 on a random live stream, but still got 1,000. Glad to see all you guys. I will be speaking as well August 16th and 17th, two-day event, the Cognitive Liberty Conference with Dr. James Lindsay. Courtney's event there in Nashville. If you want to get tickets, head on over to the cognitivelibertyconference.com. Other friends that you see me with, John Kleizek, who I've interviewed, will be there. Stephen Coughlin and some other individuals who I'm not familiar with, but they will be speaking as well. It's a two-day private event, limited seating. You can get tickets there. And remember to subscribe to me also on Rockfin, and you can follow me over here. Rockfin is an excellent free speech-based platform which gives you access through paid subscription, not only to myself, but to everybody. So there's Whitney Webb, there's Richard Grove, Burmis, Geopolitics and Empire, Tinfoil Hat, Eddie Bravo, all of our bros, all of our friends over here, Watson, everybody is over here on Rockfin. and you can get access to everybody when you do the paid subscription. So it's a unique model. It's a great Wild West free speech based platform over here. Richard is live right now, by the way. If you want to go check him out after our stream, he goes, as you guys know, for a long time on Sunday nights. So there is a link there. And you can go check out all of our bros. Storm the Cat sends $5. Thank you so much. On the topic of evangelicals, I saw a video where John Hagee literally says Jesus is not the Messiah. Yeah, I remember when that came out. In fact, I put that on my website back in the day. I had a website when he said that. And such a denial means that he is Antichrist. Yeah, he walked that back, but I mean, he's still obviously a heretic. I mean, come on. He's since, I think, tried to cover that up, but people don't remember that. I remember it. Anonymous, $5. Do you have advice for 19-year-olds? Well, again, it kind of depends on your situation and what you are up to and what you want to do. But I would stack Bitcoin. I mean, I would try my best to get involved in that. If you want to get started with Bitcoin, I have the link in the show description, Swan Bitcoin. And you can sign up over there. They're a Bitcoin only place. So you're buying and custodying Bitcoin. It's not a exchange where you sell. I would do that. I think this is what I tell everybody. I mean, economics is a huge part of your life, especially as you get older. You're more and more concerned with the economy and how you make a living and how you support a family. And so what a lot of people can do is, I'm not telling you have to do this, but you could replace your savings account with Bitcoin. I would do that over gold. And when Bitcoin goes up again, everybody will be wishing that they had bought when it dumped this week, right? I would say that's my practical advice to you. I don't know if I wouldn't go try to get a university degree in a humanity. You want to be a professor, you want to teach philosophy, you want to teach theology, you want to teach English literature. That system is not for you. Unless you're a purple-haired freak, you're not going to go anywhere in academia. Because they got that on lockdown. So figure out a trade, figure out a practical business, something like that. Start your own business. Be your own boss. That's what you want. That's what you want to shoot for. You don't want to work for some fat bitch manager screaming at you, cussing at you, and firing you when you don't cook the donuts right. So you don't want to work at Krispy Kreme the rest of your life. Think about ways to take your talents and skills and turn them into a business. That's what I would recommend. And by the way, if you want to support me and send a Bitcoin my way, you can do so through this QR code right here. That is my donation wallet. What else would I recommend? Orthodox Church. Get situated in a good church. So that's your spiritual need, physical needs, job, and money. That's my recommendation there. Don't worry about boomer gold and all that shit. Gold is boring and it's not going to give you... Look, I mean, I put up the comparison chart between gold and Bitcoin the other day, and idiots are still telling me, gold is a better performer. Gold is a better performer. Yes, gold versus Bitcoin. Go watch the chart and tell me, you know what, if you go look at that chart and you come away telling me that gold is better than Bitcoin, then just don't even watch this show anymore. Just go away. You're too dumb, dude. I'm sorry. Go follow Peter Schiff and make 2% gains every 10 years or whatever you make from gold. 5% in 10 years, 10, whatever. I don't know. It's more than that in 10 years. I'm making a joke, but you know what I mean. Anyway, it's like every Bitcoiner says to the people who talk shit all the time. Okay, well, fine. Enjoy poverty. If that's what you want, then okay, nobody's stopping you. You just race into poverty. Go for it. And take your McDonald's paychecks and buy gold and see how well that does in 10 years. Let's see. Let's do this for the people who are completely slow and stupid and want to argue all these dumb points. Okay. Bitcoin versus gold. Bitcoin versus gold chart for the boomers. I think this is the chart I used. Let's see. This one. Bitcoin versus gold. How intelligent do I have to be to look at these charts and see which one is better? The red line is the gold. Orange is gold. Okay. The gold is down here. The Bitcoin is up here. Can you figure out which one's better? And if you can't, then this isn't the channel for you. Sorry, I can't help you. Like, what do you want from me? Go get your gold. Gold all over my chain. Gold all over my watch. Don't believe me, just watch. Anyway. Gold and silver are stores of wealth. No. Bitcoin is the ultimate store of wealth. Have you guys not watched the Michael? Just watch the first 20 minutes of the Michael Saylor talk. It completely makes gold look dumb. Gold is not a good store of value. It's the best that we had in... It's not actually land. He actually argues land is a better store of value than gold is. What's Ivan talking about? Go watch Ivan. Ivan will teach you better than...
This revolution.
You'll learn more from Ivan than you would from all the boomers.
More earwax.
Okay, guys, clicking the button. Oh, yes, guys.
Okay, guys, we're back.
Oh, yes, guys, we're back. Yes, yes, clicking the button. Tell me I don't do it. I'm going to have to add Ivan to my roster of impressions. Oh, yes, guys, clicking the button.
Yet another black swan. And as you can see,
Guys,
we have
black
Bitcoin
swan.
minus 10% today.
Minus
and
10% Bitcoin.
20% on the weekly. We have ETH minus...
Minus 10%. Anyway, we're going impression crazy over here. You need to look at gold over a 10-year chart, not a 5-year chart. Yeah, I know all that. It's still a million times better. Come on, boomers, catch up. We're not going back to sailing in... what do they call them? Galleons? What's the ship? What's the ship that freaking Jack Sparrow and Javier Bardem are sailing around in? Spanish galleons? This is what gold bugs think, that we're going to be like conquistadors again. Is it a galleon? Gold bugs are over there growing out their handlebar mustache and their goatee because we're going to be sailing around in a damn Spanish galleon. Like Jack Sparrow. Like Javier Bardem. Remember that? What's his character? That's what gold bugs think. That's where we're going. That's the future right there, boy. In the future, when gold is the global currency, we're gonna have a galleon that we sail around in. We're gonna have giant buff libertarian boys that carry the chests of gold to pay for the rug that you buy in Turkey. You gotta sail your galleon to Turkey, and you're gonna offload a chest of gold, buying it from the Turkish pirates, and then you're going to sail back on your libertarian ship. What was his name in the shitty Captain America? Captain Javier Bardem. The Pirates of the Caribbean that nobody watched. Captain Salazar. Jack Sparrow. Remember that? That's what I'm talking about. This is what libertarians think the future is. Libertarians think in the future we're going to be sailing around in a damn galleon like this.
Sword, and there are 200.
Jack Sparrow gave me the Bitcoin. Bitcoin, Jack Sparrow. All right, I'm all tucked out. I'm taxed off and tucked out, whatever that means. Libertarians are gold bug. Libertarians are like, give me the black pearl. Right? You must be believing you're in one. You believe in ghost stories. You're in one. You must be believing in ghost stories. You're in one. You must be believing in libertarian economics. You're a gold bug. Right? They're over here like Elizabeth Swan, looking for the curse of the black pearl chest. You know what I'm saying? That's what libertarians are like. Peter Schiff is over there chasing the black pearl. Peter Schiff's sailing a yacht, right? Like in I can't think of nothing. My mind is shut down tonight. What's that? Remember the rich dude? Is it Ben Gazzara? The rich dude in Summer Rental. Remember he's sailing that yacht and then John Candy's chasing him and he beats him. Remember the yacht scene? Everybody's too young. Nobody's seen Summer Rental. Remember Ben Gazzara is the arrogant rich dude with the yacht. This is Peter Schiff's over there like John Candy, like chasing Jack Sparrow in the yacht. We about to sail on the 7 seas, baby. I'm gonna take my gold to Tortuga. That's where we're going. That's the future. Sailing down to Tortuga in a libertarian galleon. Where's the yacht scene? Anyway, where's the super chats at? More super chats? No more super chats? Y'all don't want some more impressions or what? Should I add my... what's Jeffrey Rush's character in... Captain Barbosa. Should I add my Captain Barbosa to the roster? We got Chills, James LaFleur, Captain Barbosa. I don't know if my Javier Bardem is good enough or not. Okay, guys, clicking the button.
Minus 30% on the weekly. We have Solana minus 10% today, minus 30% on the weekly.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. A lot of fun tonight. I'm about spent, though. We ended up mainly just talking about the economy collapsing, and that's okay. That was a lot of fun. And then we talked about things popping off in the UK. Anyway,